This is Half Brother 26, part number 2. Chapter 21. May and June. In Zan's bedroom, his bed perfectly made, the drawers still stacked with little shorts and sleeveless shirts. In the kitchen, the fridge, emptied of yogurt and milk and ginger ale and vegetables and meat. The cupboards empty, no need to keep them locked now. In his playroom, the red table and chairs. Lined up on shelves were his toys, but not the favorite ones he'd circle around himself every night. They were in the suitcase, in Nevada, in Peter's apartment, while Zan slept in his cage. It was bizarre going back to school that week after that week in Nevada. It was like being a tourist in another country. It had nothing to do with me. All these kids walking around and sitting at desks and listening to teachers talk about stuff that wasn't the least bit important. I wondered why anyone bothered to show up at all. I wrote another English assignment using only Zan's 66 words just to piss Dad off. Dr. Stotsky actually gave me an A- and said I'd achieved something quite poetic. I didn't give a damn. I muttered. I stared. I skulked. Weirder still, I was popular again. Even though Dad had refused to talk to reporters, the local paper had put together a story about how Zan had been shipped off to some university in the States. They printed a really cute picture of him sitting on my lap asking for a drink, so most kids at school knew he wasn't living with us anymore. First day back, David Godwin came up to me and slapped me on the shoulder and said, "Sorry, Ben, about Zan. I think the whole thing stinks. It wasn't my dad, you know. He wanted to keep it going, but your father seemed pretty determined to shut it down." The girls were the nicest. Girls I didn't even know, in all grades, kept coming up to me and telling me how sorry they were about Zan being gone. How could they do that? He was like a kid brother to you. Why couldn't he stay? It's so unfair. Some said they really missed him, even though they'd never met him. They felt like they knew him, just reading about him and seeing his pictures. Knowing he was gone made them so sad. A couple of girls even started crying and threw their arms around me. I'd just mumble and shrug and sigh. It wasn't like I was putting on an act, but I'd given them a drama that was impossible to resist. It almost made me laugh. I was dominant male again. Finally, I'd become the mysterious, stoic man with the wounded past. Even Jennifer gave me sympathetic little smiles in the hallway, but not even my renewed alpha status could bring her back to me. We had no chemistry. I knew a lot more about chemistry after the ranch, watching the chimps, seeing who had power over whom. Jennifer and Hugh were all over each other. They were holding hands in school for everyone to see, kissing in the hallways. I thought she wasn't allowed to date until she was 16, I said to David. He rolled his eyes. Mom and Dad reconsidered. They think she's mature enough. And Hugh being older, I guess that helped. The pain was a pale echo of what I'd felt leaving Zan behind at Helson's. Now that Jennifer and Hugh were going out, I didn't see her very much with Jane and Shannon. They weren't necessary to her life anymore. One day after school, I was waiting at the bus stop, and Shannon came up and said, "I'm really sorry about what happened with Zan. It must have been awful." She sounded completely sincere, and I remembered that time we talked about Zan last year at the rugby party, and how interested she'd seemed. I felt like I was seeing Shannon through a new lens, undistracted by Jennifer's nuclear glow. I could see how pretty she was, how kind her eyes were. "Yeah," I said, "thanks. It was really hard." And then I said something I'd never said before, even though I'd always known it. But I'm going to get him back. That night, I came downstairs from doing homework to get a drink. Mom and Dad weren't in the living room or kitchen, but I'd heard their voices faintly from Zan's suite. The door was ajar, and I walked closer to listen. "It'd make a super family room," said Dad. "Finishing the basement seems daunting, and I hate basements anyway. We'd have room for a TV and the hi-fi, and even a separate office for you." "I don't know if I'm ready to talk about this," I heard Mom say. I walked in, and they both turned in surprise. I saw Mom give Dad a kind of disgusted look, like she couldn't believe he'd even brought up the subject with me in the house. "I bet you could fit lots of rats in here too," I said to Dad. "You could stack 3 or 4 rows against that wall probably. Keep an eye on them. That'd be handy." "We won't be doing anything to this room until you're ready," Dad said. "I'm not going to be ready," I said, and felt my heart start pumping hard. I started I'd started to like that feeling, that drumbeat of anger, because Zan's coming back. Ben, Dad began. How much did you sell him for? I demanded. He had his unflappable psychologist face on. I didn't make those arrangements, Ben. It would have been the university. But how much? There's no purpose to this discussion. Zan cannot come back here to live with us. I looked at Mum. Do you know how much they paid for him? I really don't, sweetie. I said, I've got money. All that money you paid me. That wouldn't be enough, Dad said. So you do know how much he cost. Thousands, Ben. I tried to do the math quickly, but couldn't. Okay, if you never paid me allowance again, would that be enough? Ben, Mum said sadly. The only real issue here, Dad said, is that Zan is not coming back. Where would we put him? He can't sleep in a normal house anymore. We'd need to build cages, concrete walls. Even if I had all the money in the world, I wouldn't do it. It'd turn our house into a home. It'd turn our home into a prison, and we still wouldn't have the space for staff like Helson does. Zan's better off there. We could buy the field behind the house. Dad looked at me carefully. Ben, I'm concerned about you. I really don't think it's healthy to dwell on this. No, it's healthier to forget, isn't it? Just make people disappear. And I walked off. That night, Mum cried. A lot. I set my alarm for 6 so I could call Peter before Mum and Dad were awake. I went downstairs and took the living room phone on its long cord into the laundry room and closed the door. Peter was an hour ahead, and I knew he liked to get up early. How's Zan? I asked right away. He's doing all right, Peter said. Yeah, Helson's decided he wants me to work with him and this other family. I didn't understand. You mean live with them? No, just in the mornings. I take him over and he spends an hour with them. I'm like the babysitter and teacher and interpreter. My jealousy was instant. Zan had another home. Another family? Do they have kids? No, that's the point. Sort of. They're, the man and the woman are both in psychotherapy, and they're having problems with their marriage, and Helson wants to find out the effect Zan has on them. This couple lost their own son 9 months ago, so Helson wants to see if Zan helps them grieve. I didn't care about them and their dead son. I hated them, having Zan in their house when he should have been with me and mine. Are they nice to him? Mostly. Zan seems to like it. I mean, he likes being in a house again. He likes the chairs and carpets and beds, and he gets to drink from cups. Anyway, that's a little side project of Helson's. In the afternoon, I take Zan back to the ranch and work on his signing. And I'm slowly introducing him to Igor and Caliban so I can see if they'll sign together. Does he seem happy? He's doing okay, Ben, really. Has Zoots hurt him? Or Sheba? No, they keep them apart, but he and Rachel are really close. That's good. He had a mother, sort of. And how are you doing, my man? Peter asked me. Dad wants me to see a therapist. What? I exclaimed. He doesn't think I'm dealing with things well. He thinks I'm too angry. Don't go, man, Peter said. That's all crap. Mum wants me to go too. They should be going, not you. Anyway, those therapists, what do they know? They'll fit you into some diagnosis and put you on pills. Happened to my cousin. Used to be energetic and creative, and now he just sits in a chair watching TV with the sound turned down. I chuckled. Really? Peter laughed. No, but you're fine, he said to me. You don't need a therapist. Your heart is normal. You're entitled to be as angry as you want. I wasn't sure it was good advice, but I loved it. Loved him for giving it to me. I rode my bike around a lot, just to empty out my head. Sometimes bits of things would circle around, just words. Sometimes Zan's words. Go, 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 hurry, there dog, go dog, tree, apple tree, water, dirty, no drink, look, listen, birds, birds eat, birds eat, listen birds. When I rode, I was kind of hoping I'd run into Tim Borden and Mike and their gang. I wanted to see how deep my anger was, how hot it would burn if Mike provoked me. I wanted to display. I wanted to hit. Toes, fingers, face, scrotum. All I cared about was the end of the year, so I could go down to visit Zan.